Ladies and gentlemen, when you've lived long enough, you start to understand that life is not just about the years you've spent. It's about the peace you've earned. And when you reach your older years, that peace becomes sacred. That's why I tell people everywhere I go, be careful to fall again in your old age, at least not carelessly. Love in old age is beautiful, but requires wisdom, patience, and self-respect. It is a chapter of life where you are no longer trying to impress anyone, no longer trying to fit into anyone's expectations, and no longer driven by youthful impulses that once made love feel urgent. Instead, love becomes something softer, calmer, richer, yet also something that must be approached with a deeper level of awareness. When you have lived long enough, you've learned yet your heart is not something to gamble with, your peace is not something to sacrifice, and your dignity is not something to trade for companionship. The beauty of love in later years comes from the understanding that you already know who you are, what you need, and what you absolutely can no longer tolerate. That knowledge becomes your shield and your guide. Wisdom shapes the way you love now. It teaches you to slow down and observe a person's actions more than their promises. It reminds you that loneliness is not a reason to choose someone who doesn't value you. Wisdom says you are allowed to take your time, allowed to say no, allowed to walk away, and allowed to choose yourself first. It also helps you recognize genuine affection when it appears. You can tell when someone respects your journey, listens to your stories, and honors what you've survived. Wisdom lets you appreciate small, meaningful gestures over fancy illusions, and you learn that real love whispers, it doesn't shout. It grows, it doesn't rush, it doesn't drain. Patience becomes equally important. At this stage of life, you're not building yourself from scratch anymore. You've lived, learned, healed from moments that tested your strength. Patience allows you to give someone space to understand the version of you that exists today. The wiser, more grounded, more discerning you. It keeps you from forcing love or chasing it. It helps you wait to see someone's true character, their consistency, their intentions. Patience teaches you that if love is right, it will not demand you to shrink, hurry, or compromise the peace you've earned through years of life's trials. It also helps you navigate differences with grace, because two people coming together later in life are merging entire histories, habits, and wounds. Patience allows you both to grow into the connection slowly and respectfully. And then there is self-respect, the foundation of everything. Self-respect tells you that you matter, that your happiness matters, that your boundaries matter. It reminds you not to settle for bare, minimum affection or accept love that arrives with confusion or chaos. You've come too far and endured too much to allow another person to disrupt your emotional stability. Self-respect says you deserve love that feels safe, gentle, mature, and uplifting. It gives you the strength to walk away when someone cannot match your energy, honor your heart, or treat you with kindness. It ensures that any love you welcome into your life must be a love that meets you where you are, not a love that drags you backward. Love in old age truly can be beautiful, perhaps more beautiful than ever, but only when guided by wisdom, patience, and unwavering self-respect. Experience should guide decisions, not loneliness or pressure. As people grow older, they accumulate a library of moments, some joyful, some painful, and some that change the shape of their hearts forever. Every lesson, every mistake, every heartbreak becomes a piece of wisdom, meant to protect them in the future. Experience teaches that love is not just about emotion. It's about judgment, discernment, clarity, and timing. When someone has lived long enough, they know the cost of ignoring red flags, the toll of giving too much, and the weight of loving the wrong person. This understanding becomes a compass that points toward healthier choices and away from situations that would drain them. Yet, even with all this wisdom, loneliness has a way of whispering lies. It tells people they need companionship to feel complete. It tells them time is running out, that they should accept whatever affection appears, even if it is inconsistent or unkind. But loneliness should never be the voice that chooses your next chapter, because decisions made from emptiness often lead to regret. When experience is ignored and loneliness takes the lead, people can find themselves repeating cycles they already survived, even though they promised themselves they never would again. Pressure can be just as misleading. Pressure may come from family who wants to see you settled, from friends who think you shouldn't be alone, or from society that assumes companionship is necessary at every age. But the truth is, peace is far more valuable than partnership that comes with stress or discomfort. Pressure can push you into situations that don't fit your spirit. It can convince you that someone is good enough simply because they are available. It can make you move too fast, trust too quickly, and ignore the guidance that your own history is offering you. Experience, on the other hand, speaks with honesty. It reminds you of times you loved too hard, too fast, too blindly. It reminds you of how long it took to heal, how many nights you spent rebuilding your confidence, how much energy it took to reclaim your joy. Experience doesn't discourage love. It simply encourages smarter love. When you let experience guide you, you move differently. You listen more carefully. You watch for consistency instead of charm. You value emotional stability more than sweet words. You know the difference between effort and excuses. You understand that a peaceful life is more important than a romantic one filled with uncertainty. You learn to recognize when someone is approaching your heart with sincerity and when they are approaching with selfishness. Experience equips you with the courage to choose wisely, to wait for the right energy, and to protect yourself without apology. Love is still possible, still beautiful, still worth embracing, but only when it aligns with the wisdom you've earned. Decisions made from loneliness may give temporary comfort, but long-term pain. Decisions made from pressure may satisfy others, but leave you unhappy. But decisions made from experience, from the truth you carry within, are the ones that bring real peace and lasting joy. Protect your peace. Don't let anyone disrupt the stability you've built. As you grow older, peace becomes more than just a pleasant feeling. It becomes a necessity for your emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. It takes years to understand the value of a quiet mind, a steady heart, and a drama-free life. When you reach a point where your days are calmer, your thoughts are clearer, and your boundaries are stronger, you begin to realize how fragile peace can be, and how easily the wrong person can shatter it. This is why protecting your peace is not selfish. It is survival. Every hard lesson from your past, every heartbreak you've overcome, and every disappointment you've healed from has taught you just how precious a peaceful life truly is. And at this stage, you no longer have the time or the desire to rebuild yourself after someone else's chaos. People often underestimate how damaging emotional disturbance can be. One wrong relationship can drain your energy, disturb your sleep, weaken your confidence, and distract you from the joys you should be embracing. Peace is not simply the absence of problems, It is the presence of balance. When someone comes into your life and brings confusion, inconsistency, manipulation, or disrespect, they rob you of the stability you've spent years earning. They take your calm moments and replace them with doubt. They take your joy and replace it with stress. And often, it happens slowly, so subtly that you don't notice until your peace is gone. That is why you must be vigilant. You must guard your heart with the strength of someone who knows what it took to heal it. Protecting your peace means paying attention to how someone makes you feel, not just what they say. It means observing patterns, not promises. It means choosing distance when someone's presence becomes too heavy for your spirit. You don't owe anyone access to your emotions, your time, or your energy simply because they want it. You've earned the right to be selective. You've earned the right to set boundaries without guilt. You've earned the right to say no without explanation. At this stage of your life, peace is not negotiable. It also means protecting yourself from internal disruptions, your own fears, insecurities, or loneliness. Sometimes we allow people to enter our lives because we fear being alone. But loneliness is not an emergency, and it should never make you accept someone who disturbs the harmony you've built. Peace grows when you choose yourself with confidence, when you prioritize your emotional needs, and when you refuse to be pulled into situations that steal your happiness. The more you value your peace, the more you recognize when someone is not aligned with it. You become quicker to walk away from disrespect, quicker to detach from unhealthy patterns, and quicker to protect your space. Peace is the reward of maturity, and once you have it, you must guard it fiercely. It is the foundation of your joy, your clarity, your strength, and no relationship is worth losing it. Know your value. Don't compromise who you are for temporary affection. As you grow older, your sense of self should become clearer, stronger, and more rooted in truth. You've lived through enough seasons to know what you bring to the table, what your heart is worth, and how much strength it took to become the person you are today. When you understand your value, you stop accepting relationships that only offer you crumbs of affection. You stop shrinking your personality to make someone else comfortable. You stop silencing your feelings just to keep the peace. You stop giving your time to people who don't appreciate the depth, wisdom, and experience you carry. Value isn't something you beg others to see. It's something you embody. It shows in how you speak, how you move, how you set boundaries, and how you refuse to settle. When you know your worth, you don't chase validation. You don't wait around hoping someone will magically become the person you want them. You don't pour your love into hands that cannot hold it. You choose people who recognize your light without needing to dim it. You surround yourself with those who speak to your soul, not your insecurities. Temporary affection can be tempting, especially when loneliness sneaks in or when someone appears with sweet words and shallow intentions. The temporary affection is like a spark that flashes brightly for a moment, then disappears, leaving you in the dark, wondering why you gave so much of yourself to something so fleeting. When you compromise your value for a moment of emotional warmth, you pay with long-term disappointment. You pay with heartbreak. You pay with the pieces of yourself you should be protecting. And the older you get, the more you realize that recovering from emotional wounds takes time, energy, and strength you deserve to use for joy, not for repairing damage caused by choosing the wrong people. Knowing your value means standing firm in your standards. It means being honest about what you need and refusing to apologize for it. If you want loyalty, consistency, respect, patience, and kindness, you should expect it without guilt. If you want someone who listens, supports, and understands the life you've lived, that is not asking for too much. It is asking for what you have earned. Your experiences have shaped you into someone deserving of mature love, not half-hearted effort. You must also recognize that not everyone you meet will be capable of loving you at the level you deserve. And that's okay. Their limitations are not your burden. Their ability to match your loyalty is not your failure. Their lack of maturity is not an invitation for you to settle. It simply means in your life should be limited or perhaps non-existent. When you truly know your value, you start making choices that honor your peace, your happiness, and your emotional health. You stop bending to fit into spaces that are too small for your spirit. You stop letting people define your worth based on what they can or cannot give. Instead, you define it yourself with confidence, clarity, and self-respect. This is how you protect your heart. This is how you honor your journey. And this is how you ensure that the love you accept only adds to your life, never subtracts from it. Pay attention to red flags. Maturity doesn't make you immune to manipulation. No matter how old, wise, or experienced you are, the heart remains vulnerable, and people with harmful intentions can still find their way into your life if you ignore the signs. Red flags are often subtle at first, small inconsistencies, uneasy feelings, or moments where someone's actions don't match their words. In younger years, these signs are often dismissed because of excitement, infatuation, or hope. But even in later life, the desire for companionship or connection can make you overlook what should concern you. That's why paying attention to those early warnings is essential. Experience equips you with sharper intuition, but intuition only works when you choose to listen to it. Red flags come in many forms. They may appear as someone trying to rush intimacy, someone who avoids accountability, or someone who becomes defensive when asked simple questions. They may show up when a person talks down to you, dismisses your feelings, criticizes your life choices, or subtly tries to control your time and energy. Sometimes red flags look like charm that feels too perfect, too rehearsed, or too eager to impress. These are not harmless quirks. They are early signs of deeper issues that can later turn into manipulation, emotional instability, or disrespect. When you pay attention to these patterns from the beginning, you protect your heart from unnecessary pain. Even in older age, manipulation can still happen because manipulators don't prey on youth. They prey on kindness, trust, loneliness, and vulnerability. Someone may try to use your empathy against you, convincing you to sacrifice your peace for their comfort. Others might exploit your desire for stability, pretending to offer security while gradually taking advantage of you emotionally or financially. Some manipulators disguise their intentions under the mask of affection, acting loving only when it benefits them. Recognizing these behaviors early prevents you from being pulled into situations that drain your energy, disrupt your peace, or diminish your self-worth. Paying attention to red flags also requires honesty with yourself. Sometimes you may want a connection to work so badly that you convince yourself the signs are small, temporary, or unimportant. But ignoring discomfort doesn't make it disappear. It only allows it to grow. When someone shows you behaviors that make you uneasy, take them seriously. If a person's presence brings more stress than joy, that is not a relationship worth pursuing. Trust your instincts. They come from years of learning, growing, and surviving. If something feels off, it usually is. The beauty of maturity is that you no longer need dramatic relationships to feel alive. You no longer need to fix people or save them. You no longer need to tolerate someone who brings turmoil into your life. Paying attention to red flags allows you to choose peace over suffering and clarity over confusion. It empowers you to walk away early before emotional attachment traps you in a cycle of discomfort. No matter your age, you deserve love that is gentle, respectful, and honest. Recognizing red flags ensures that the love you accept aligns with the life you've built and the person you've become. Love yourself first, so any love you accept adds to you, not drains you. As people grow older, the importance of self-love becomes increasingly clear. When you have spent years learning who you are, what brings you joy, what drains your energy, you realize that no external relationship can fill the void that only self-acceptance can satisfy. Love that begins with yourself sets the standard for every connection you allow into your life. It means understanding your worth, respecting your boundaries, and refusing to accept anything less than what nurtures your soul. Without self-love, you risk seeking validation from others, which can lead to compromising your peace, tolerating mistreatment, and losing sight of your values. The energy you put into loving yourself is the foundation for all other love. It ensures that the relationships you cultivate complement your life rather than disrupt it. When you love yourself first, you no longer approach relationships with desperation or dependency. You stop giving love out of fear of being alone or pressure to conform to societal expectations. Instead, your love becomes intentional, deliberate, and healthy. You enter relationships as a whole person, not as someone looking to be completed or fixed. This self-awareness allows you to recognize what genuinely enriches your life and what diminishes it. You understand that being with someone who appreciates, respects, and supports you is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Self-love gives you the strength to say no when someone's presence feels toxic, inconsistent, or draining, even if their affection initially seems appealing. It keeps you grounded and ensures that your emotional energy is spent wisely. Self-love also teaches discernment. When you have a strong sense of your own value, you notice patterns and behaviors in others that may be harmful or incompatible with your life. You are more likely to avoid relationships that require constant compromise or that demand you diminish your standards. Loving yourself means refusing to tolerate manipulation, neglect, or inconsistency. It allows you to identify people who are truly aligned with your values and who enhance your well-being rather than detract from it. When love begins with self-respect, every other love in your life becomes a partnership, not a burden. It becomes a relationship in which both people contribute, nurture, and uplift one another rather than one-sided dependence or expectation. Another crucial aspect of self-love is nurturing your own happiness independently of others. As you age, you may feel the pressure to find companionship, but self-love reminds you that your happiness is not contingent upon someone else's presence. You cultivate joy, hobbies, passions, and social connections that sustain you regardless of relationship status. This independence, this any love you accept later in life far more meaningful because it is not an attempt to fill emptiness, but an addition to an already fulfilling life. It also protects you from falling into relationships out of convenience, loneliness, or fear. Ensuring that love chosen at this stage amplifies your contentment rather than diminishes it. Ultimately, love yourself first allows you to approach new relationships with clarity, confidence, and strength. It ensures that any love you welcome into your life enhances your well-being rather than drains it. It allows you to set boundaries firmly and compassionately, to prioritize your peace, and to attract partners who honor and cherish the person you have become. When self-love is the foundation, every